Okay, so this is going to be a real quick, real simple, and real effective video about how to fix this muzzle leak issue on the Nerf Super Soaker XP100, the muzzle leak issue that everybody has been complaining about. So as you probably already know, if you're watching this, Nerf came out with, Nerf owns the Super Soaker imprint now, took it over from Hasbro or whatever, who had before that taking it over from Laramie. Nerf came out with this reproduction of the original Super Soaker 100 from back in the 90s. And it looks pretty much the same. I actually like it better, which I know is the minority opinion. Everyone's saying, oh, it looks the same, but it's not as good. Now, you can see the XP100 reproduction disassembled on the table here. Now, I also have an original from the 90s, Laramie brand Super Soaker 100. The eagle-eyed among you will have spotted this as actually the 1997 new and improved re-release, as you can tell by the more oblate pressure chamber there. Now you might be thinking, oh, wasn't that the orange one? Well, mostly it was the orange one. They did make a few of the 97 re-release in dark blue, and this is one of those rare 97 dark blues there. But anyway, as you know, if you've ever, certainly if you've held both guns in your hands, the original certainly has the look. It's got a longer barrel. It's got that more cylindrical reservoir. You certainly wouldn't mistake the XP100 Nerf re-release for the originals visually. But as you know, if you've held both in your hands, the one from the 90s, despite its hallowed reputation, is a much more rickety gun. You can see the bar attaching the pump there is, much thinner. You could, hear it rattling around when you move it. If you're running around with this gun and you wipe out or you bang it against something, it's pretty much done. And that's not just because it's, 25 years old. It was like that at the time, trust me. And people who remember it being any other way are just running on nostalgia. Now, one thing that even the haters do have to admit about the XP100, the recent Nerf re-release, is that it is a much more durable gun. I can't prove this by banging it around right now because I've got it disassembled, but it holds up much better. The pump area here is much sturdier. It does have a slightly smaller reservoir. Some people say they don't like the sort of a locking mechanism on the new reservoir. The ones from the 90s just, had threads and screwed in like a soda bottle does. But as many of you may remember, those would wear out over time and cause leakage issues. People have been saying that these start to wear out too, but I sprayed some glossy sealant around the opening there, which hopefully should protect the exterior of the reservoir there and prevent any leakage issues. But it's not even any smaller. Well, it's technically a little smaller than the original 1990 Super Soaker 100, which had a 1.5 liter. The 97 new and improved re-release with the oblate pressure chamber actually has a 1.35 liter reservoir. That is, though it looks bigger, the exact same size. If you, fill this up, pour it back and forth into that, you can see for yourself, you are in fact dealing with the exact same amount of water. The new reservoir just looks smaller. Anyway, on to what you came to the video for, how to fix this muzzle leak issue. I think in terms of certainly durability, how it feels in your hand, the new XP100 is a better gun in every way. Except for the thing everybody in all the other videos has been complaining about, the fact that if you pump it more than a few times, it starts to dribble out the muzzle. That is because, let's see, just put all of this back in where it should be there with one hand. So if you can just intuit how this all fits together here. Yeah, I did not succeed in doing that with one hand. Anyway, as you can see now, that's all fit together. You know, your water's going in there, a mixture of air and water up in the pressure chamber, coming through here and out the muzzle when you pull the trigger. The trigger is a pinch trigger, and I can now see I'm going to have to pause this again. Okay, now that I got everything back in there, as I was saying, the XP100, like all the old Super Soakers, uses a pinch trigger system where you've got a pressurized mix of air and water in the chamber there. It wants to shoot out this tube, but it's being prevented from doing so by the trigger. And then when you pull it, it opens up the trigger, just like putting a crimp in a hose, right? Pulling the trigger back uncrimps it, and the water can then shoot out the end that the water shoots out of. So the problem people have been complaining about is the trigger as it originally appears when you get the gun is just this orange plastic thing pressing pinching the tube up against this blue plastic part right there. And it's, you can probably already visually intuit what the problem is. It's pinching it kind of hard, but not that hard. As soon as you get a few, good pumps in, the strength of this spring, pressing this plastic thing against this other plastic thing is not enough to hold back the water, and it starts sort of rather pathetically dribbling out the end, and you figure, oh well, might as well pull the trigger, even though there's not as much power behind that shot as I wanted. So people have been talking about doing things like, getting a smaller spring or cutting the spring to increase the spring strength. That might be a good idea. I haven't tried it. I'm not saying to do or not to do that. I have no idea. You can mess around with the spring if you want. I mean, that's the good thing about dealing with the new guns, right? Is if you get one of the originals off of eBay for however much money and you try and mod it yourself, and, you screw something up, oops, you've got to get a new gun off eBay. The XP100 at least is, still in the stores. So even if you, try modding it in some crazy way that makes it explode, just go back to the store, get another one, and, don't do the thing that made it explode this time. So there's, much less consequence to trying to mod it in weird ways. Anyway, I haven't tried messing around with the spring. What I did do is just, Gorilla Glued a piece of metal to the top of the trigger there, and another one in the top there. So now, rather than plastic pressing plastic and bending it back, you've got a piece of metal, which obviously is stronger and has a less rounded edge. You do want to use one with a rounded edge so you don't put cuts in the tube. I actually used a piece of metal that I folded over. But anyway, you've got longer metal pressing into metal there. So that's going to be more strength crimping the tube. Now, people have talked about ballooning issues. I've seen pictures of, the tube down here getting stretched out. That's why I put some Gorilla Tape around it at the base here. This wasn't to fix a problem. This is preventative, just because I saw people talking about ballooning in the tube in other videos. So I figured, well, I'll put the tape on before that happens. Just to show you what I'm talking about, let me pause this again. All right, so without all of the other interior stuff in the way, you can see what we've got here is a piece of metal pressing against another piece of metal. This one piece is glued to the trigger here. The other piece is glued to the plastic part that the trigger originally pressed into there. Now, as far as what metal you can use, what I used was, if you go to a hardware store and go to, where they've got the bins with just tons of different brass doohickeys for plumbing a jointed part and a tube that's this big and a tube that's that big. And you get a couple of these guys, the sort of semicircles with holes for screws at the top and the bottom. I guess they're the things that plumbers use to affix a pipe to a wall. And they're measured in, what would be the diameter of the pipe. Like that's a, 3/4 of an inch one for a 3/4 of an inch pipe. This is for a 1/2 inch pipe. What I did was, for the trigger thing, I got one of the 1/2 inch size ones, bent it over on itself a bunch of times. So just like smacked it with a hammer until it was flat. Folded it over, like they used to do with swords, right? To strengthen metal, like bend it, hammer it out, bend it again, hammer it out, just keep folding it on itself. So you're dealing with a piece of metal there that is simultaneously very thin and very strong. And just a word on solving the problem of what in my home can I put metal on to bang it? I'm assuming you already have a hammer, but you can pick up in the electrical section of any hardware store one of whatever the heck this is. A metal square that I gather electricians use for something. But anyway, for our purposes, it can do the job of an anvil. Put it on a table, put your piece of metal that you want to smack on that thing, commence smacking, and that way you can smack a piece of metal real flat without screwing up your table or some non-metal surface. So anyway, these electrical square, whatever they are, I guess an electrician would know, but I'm not one of those, makes a really good impromptu anvil for when you need to smack some metal flat. So, I used one of the smaller ones, folded over a bunch of times and then, glued it to the trigger. I used one of the 3/4 inch ones, which, just as a happy accident, if you, bend it over in half and then smack it flat, it fits perfectly into this space, like right up against that round thing from there to there. Now, a word of caution. I only glued this on one end. Whatever you do, do not, right? Because you can't tell this when you've got everything taken out of it. Don't glue it over here. Leave a space there, because when you put everything back in, the bottom of the, O thingy that the reservoir goes into. See that bit? That bit is going to need to fit into that space between this thing. So if you're going like, oh, this isn't pressed against anything, when you put all the crap back in, it'll be pressed against, the square part at the bottom of the thing that holds the pump and the reservoir. So only glue this on this end. That'll still be plenty of support, because there'll be no place for it to move once everything else is back in. So, long story short, to fix that muzzle leak that everybody is complaining about on the new Nerf Super Soaker XP100, all you need are 2 little pieces of metal. A slightly smaller one, bend over and hammer flat and glue to the top of the trigger there. Just like that. The bigger one, bend over, hammer flat, and glue to the thing that the trigger, is meant to press into. So then you've got metal touching metal, which will obviously do a much better job of keeping, a crimp in the hose, allowing you to pump many more times without anything leaking, out of the front. It's real easy to do. If you've never opened up a water gun before, you might be nervous about doing so. Don't be. Once you start opening up water guns and messing around with the inside, you'll wonder how you ever lived without doing so. It's real fun, and it only looks complicated for a second. Give it a visual once over, and it is real obvious how everything works. Yet another improvement in the new Nerf Super Soakers is all of the screws, no matter what they're holding onto what, are all the exact same size. They're all, thread size 0, 5/16 length, pan head or whatever in case you drop them and need to order more. The old Super Soakers, there'd be like one size screw on this part, another size screw on the other part, all real small, all real a pain to find. So this is at least streamlined in that respect. Now, one thing I guess I meant to mention is even though we've got metal to metal here and this part is real strong, everything else involved in the system is, of course, still plastic. So if you go, okay, metal, and strengthen the spring, now I'm gonna, pump the heck out of it and expect it to be a fire hose. Well, there are still other parts that will break. This gasket will blow or the hose will blow or something. If you have more tools at your disposal than I do, and you want to if one of the Mythbusters is watching this or something and you want to replace absolutely everything from the inside with metal, I'd be real impressed, but I don't have the means to do that. The metal touching metal over here will solve with a hammered out this thingy and a hammered out that thingy will solve the Muzzle-Leak issue. But there is still the potential to solve it so well that something else explodes. So I don't recommend trying to pump it. Just use. You can feel in your hand when you're starting to pump a water gun too much. Problems still can occur if you do that. But this mod here, real simple, real easy. Open it up. Some hammering, some gluing, leave the glue overnight, and you're good to go the next morning. That will be enough to fix the infamous Muzzle-Leak issue on the Nerf Super Soaker XP100, making it at least the equal and possibly the superior of the Laramie originals from the 90s, though of course we are still dealing with the great Lonnie Johnson's design here. So it is still a Super Soaker. There was just one issue there that needs to be fixed, and that's how you fix it. So let's keep this under 20 minutes here. Good luck.